Welcome to the Black A History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. I can't believe I found yet another story about an incredibly acclaimed Black A icon from the Harlem Renaissance era that is new to me. Pharrell Francois Benga was a Senegalese and French actor, model, entertainer, and entrepreneur who was the face of gay life in the Harlem Renaissance, the artistic period in the 1920s and 30s when Black artists were being celebrated universally, particularly in the historic Black neighborhood that is Harlem. In New York and France in the 1920s and 30s, Francois Pharrell Benga had a seemingly glamorous life and was the face of Black gay glamour during this time period, connecting the Black and gay communities of New York and France. Pharrell Benga became one of the most sought-after artistic muses for gay artists at the time and acted in popular French films along the way. What's even more incredible is his backstory. Francois Benga was born in Senegal on July 8, 1906, and was considered an illegitimate child of a powerful and wealthy family of illustrious property owners in Dakar, Senegal's capital city. When he was 25, he was disinherited by his father when he moved to Paris, but it's in Paris, and eventually New York, where he would find his destiny as a popular entertainer. I can't help but wonder if Benga's acceptance of his sexuality had something to do with his fallout with his family. Plenty of gay men know what that's like, so it seems some things, even 100 years later, stay consistent. Paris at the time was known as a safe haven for gay and Black people, and obviously coming from a French-speaking country surely made the transition easier for Benga to adjust. Later that year in Paris, Benga began working odd jobs as waitstaff, and would eventually nab a dancing job contract at Folies Bergère, an incredibly popular French nightclub. It's likely at this nightclub where Francois Benga got his nickname Pharrell, which means untamed in French, playing into his African heritage and his party lifestyle persona. Benga would show off his sculpted physique, dance in the show, and play the drums behind another incredibly popular Black queer French artist of the day, Josephine Baker. Josephine Baker was likely the first Black international pop star, dancer, and actress who gained incredible fame and acclaim in the 1920s, and she also was known to have many bisexual liaisons. It's incredible and fascinating to think that so many Black LGBT icons were encountering each other during this time period. There's even pictures of Francois Benga in drag, impersonating his onstage cabaret co-host Josephine Baker herself. It's likely that at this nightclub, Folies Bergère, that Pharrell Benga encountered another Black gay icon I've mentioned several times on this channel, Richmond Barth, a popular painter and sculptor who was enamored with Josephine Baker and Pharrell Benga's cabaret act. Barth and Benga would become good Judies, and before long Benga was headed to New York with Barth, where he would become even more adored by other artists in the States. There are extensive amounts of portraits taken of Benga throughout the 1920s and 1930s by many notable Black and gay artists of the time, including his friend Richmond Barth, George Platt Lyons, Carl Van Vechten, James A. Porter, and Pavel Chelichu. In the 1930s, Francois Benga would branch out from dancing and modeling to acting. Benga starred in a 1932 film, The Blood of a Poet, directed by Jean Cocteau. The film delves into fantasy and follows a white poet played by Enrique Rivero, who is transported into another dimension after a mirror becomes a doorway into other worlds. Pharrell would play an angel that the poet meets on his journey in the astral realm. In 1935, his lover, a Jewish-American author and anthropologist, Geoffrey Gower, traveled with Benga through several countries in Africa, which inspired him to write a book entitled African Dances, a book he dedicated to Pharrell Benga that detailed different African dances they encountered on their trip. What's even more noteworthy is that this book is described as a celebration of African culture and a direct condemnation of European colonialism in Africa. Our gay ancestors were woke, y'all, and you know now I've got to get a copy of this book. Pharrell Benga was clearly on fire that year. He would also play a part in a French romantic film, Escale, and in 1936 would feature in another film, Quand Minuit Sonnera, or When Midnight Strikes, a dramatic crime movie, a genre of film that was popular in the 1930s. That's right, kids. We had a Black gay noir detective-style star in the movies back in those days. You see, kids, black gay men have always had a part in the music biz in Hollywood. Back in Manhattan, Benga was a gay icon. He moved into the gay Harlem social circles and even had a brief affair with Kenneth McPherson, who was at the time in a relationship with another black gay singer and entertainer I've mentioned on this channel, Jimmy Daniels. Oh yes, kids, the tea is piping hot. Now, it seems like this isn't exactly a highlight of Francois Benga's story, but who knows? Maybe they were all consenting adults and everyone knew what was going on. But from what I read online, the situation with Jimmy Daniels didn't seem kosher. Again, I'm always taken aback at how many of these black gay icons of the times had interactions with each other, good or bad. By 1947, Francois Farrell Benga was back in Paris and notably opened his own cabaret restaurant, La Rose Rouge, at 53 Rue de la Harpe. And if that isn't astounding enough, the restaurant hosted an African cabaret of all African performers, mostly students from universities in Paris. This venue would stay open for roughly a decade before shutting down in the 1950s, not long before Benga passed away in 1957. This is just one of the many fascinating black gay icons I need to read a whole book or watch a whole movie about. From his background with his wealthy family back in Senegal, to becoming a star in Paris and New York, to traveling Africa with his lover, Francois Benga lived an incredibly interesting life and remained untamed while doing so. That's so fierce.